My video for April 1st, 2018 is entitled, "We're All Considered Fools Whenever We Were Born." Yes, the first day of April is considered Fool's Day in the United States, or so I was taught as a child. I was taught lots of things as a child that I later learned turned us into actual fools, doing the bidding of those falsely claiming leadership. They manipulated our religions, our education, and our culture, giving themselves dominance. Of course, real authority comes by example, not the dictate of tyrants. In any case, there have been some real fools that have been placed in high positions. One such man actually became president of the USA Incorporated. He made a legendary quote, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, and you can't be fooled again," end quote. He was known as W, perhaps meaning Whacky after a British comic strip, or maybe some other mysterious reason. If we continue to allow ourselves to be dominated by these charlatans and their false claims of superiority, we not only have ourselves to blame, we have to ask, as I have been asking for a long time now, where is God? And why isn't the madness stopped? You may or may not realize by now, those of you that watch my videos regularly do realize that I create the videos the day before the actual date of the video. In other words, it's not April 1st when I'm recording this, it's still March 31st. In fact, it's very early in the morning on March 31st. And April 1st, of course, besides being the first April Fool's Day on which Easter falls, in quite a long time, I'll be making an Easter video for the April 2nd video, and I'll be recording that one on Easter Day. Anyway, we have been fooled by our mainstream media, by our so-called leadership, and I pointed out the fiasco with the President of the United States, who was the son of another President of the United States. And he was actually brilliant. He could read children's books upside down. He didn't even have to have it right side up. Of course, that happened in 9/11, the bringing down of the World Trade Center and the missile attack on the Pentagon and the plane coming down in Pennsylvania and other things that happened on that thing orchestrated by W's Vice President, Dick Cheney. And the fiasco has been and still is ongoing. But it was ongoing even in the 19th century. That's when Abraham Lincoln, dishonest Abe, as one of my friends refers to him, became the first president of the United States who was a bar-certified attorney. There were lawyers that had been president prior to that, but they weren't bar attorneys. Mr. Lincoln was the first bar attorney, and he was the one that represented the North in the Civil War, while France represented the South in the Civil War. So it was another European conflict between Britain and France that took place on American soil, and it was the most deaths that ever happened. We have been fooled, cajoled, and assailed continuously since the founding of this nation. The so-called elite have been trying to maintain their superiority. And folks, I want you to understand something. I often talk about the Bill of Rights, and the right to bear arms, etc. The right to bear arms is merely the right of self-defense. That's all it is. And you have to at least find something proportionate to what is coming against you, or there is no self-defense. But that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about fools. I'm talking about how we, as human beings, not just in the United States, but all over the world, have been fooled by our leaders. Our leaders are not decent, good, kind, loving people. Contrary-wise, they are, as we've been saying, pedophiles and those that exercise some of the worst practices. I mean, they kill for the sake of killing. They like bloodletting. They thrive on war. This is obvious to those of us that open our minds and our eyes and look at things that are actually occurring, not putting our heads in the sand as, oh, I'm not going to talk about that, that's negative, and people get away. I mean, I've had that happen, as I said in a previous video recently, maybe the one yesterday, I'm not sure. But in any case, we have to start paying attention. And if anyone needs to be paying attention, it's our Creator. Now, Jesus supposedly said, "My kingdom is not of this world." Well, then we need to bring the kingdom of heaven to this world. That's what needs to happen. We can't just relinquish the world to demons, which some people would interpret Jesus saying, "My kingdom is not of this world," as just letting it be in the hands of Satan. We're going to have the kingdom of heaven when we die. Not when we're alive, not when we're embodied, but when we die. When we're in spirit, then we're going to experience the kingdom of heaven. Isn't that foolish? We live this whole life for dying. The goal is to die. The goal is to be Christianized, which means mind controlled. I don't think that that's what the word Christian means. It means Christ-like, of course, but all religions are forms of mind control, and they teach us to be fools. They teach us to fight. They teach us to exalt our ego rather than to find the deep spirit within us that always loves, that can't help but love. I watched a movie last night. It was about a man who was given supernatural powers, but one of the things that they were doing is eradicating feelings, no emotions allowed. And there was lots of killing and bloodshed. But he was, even though he was one of the insiders, he was beginning to have his emotions awakened. He was beginning to feel. And those that didn't feel killed and murdered without regard to their victims. It was a very violent movie, and I'm not sure what the purpose was other than to show that we can be redeemed. And I hope that we can wake up from the fools that we have been and wake up to the fools that are engineering the whole cycle of violence that has been ongoing for a long time. George Bush is just an example of someone without a high mentality, but yet he graduated college, but he's not very smart. And those that allow fools to continue to reign over us, we're not very smart either. We have to take a stand, and may God finally take responsibility for creation. Thank you for listening. Namaste.